A pleasure to meet all at last, and here we are again with Pac-Man World 2. This is a sequel in which that I have remembered so fondly over the years. The year is 2002, a mere 3 years after the first game's success, and at the same time, the year 2002 had loads of games going on for the PS2, the newest console at the time. A year after the first game's release came along the PS2, which itself was made almost like a world-renowned celebration. It was an event unlike any other at the time. And while today we can expect today's console sales to go by with flying colors, many people try to make those older events like they were the best things they ever went through. When really, it was kind of a waste of time for people just camping out in those buildings, possibly being illegal and stuff. In any case though, Pac-Man World 2, 2 years after the PlayStation 2's release, and it was also around this point in which that the PS2's library started to become extremely saturated with titles. I mean, that same year we had Dragon Ball Z Budokai, we also got MX vs. ATV, as well as ATV Off-Road Fury 2, and there was also some Tony Hawk stuff going on. I mean, the list just never ends. The year 2002 was no doubt probably one of the biggest years of video gaming at the time. In any case though, Pac-Man World 2 had a lot to live up to. So in comparison to what we got with Pac-Man in the first game, and here we have an entirely different villain. A villain that was long ago buried underneath the Pac Town. But during one night, what happens is that the 4 ghosts that we remember from the original Pac-Man, all the way back in 1980, red, blue, orange, and pink. Although they do technically have their own names. Blinky, Inky, Clyde, and Pinky. Although in this instance, they had been given different names since then. The thing is though, is that these 4 ghosts managed to take a hold of the golden fruit that are sitting in the tree in the center of town, effectively unleashing this main bad guy that we have here. Well, hold on to your butts here, because what we are dealing with is no ordinary villain here. That very night turned out to be a pretty nasty thing. So of course, what happens is that King Spooky is now on the loose. And the following morning, after the night in which he broke out, the Pac people end up seeing the tree. No golden fruit and no nothing. Basically, we are given an explanation as to how the King Spooky was sealed away underneath the tree, which that the great Pac Wizard had apparently sealed him away using the power of these golden fruits. A powerful potion was made specifically to turn these fruits into the power of golden, and as a result, they overpowered King Spooky and had him sealed away under that tree until the ghost came around and set him free. So, what happens is that Pac Village now has to rely on their sole hero to retrieve the golden fruit, defeat the ghosts, and bring down King Spooky once and for all. Pac-Man is sent out on another adventure. Unlike with Talkman though, this was an entirely different paradigm in which that it shifted to not only a different platform relating to consoles, but also a different platform in correlation to that of platforming as a whole. You see, you got yourself a few levels in which that one, known as the bare basics, tells you about the basic instructions, how to play the game, and of course, how to defeat all the enemies in the area. The instruction manual, in which that I've read many times over, describes a good majority of the different villains that you encounter in the game, as well as ones that you get to defeat. There's also a lot of different biomes that you get to explore just as well. And with each and every level that passes through, there's typically a few acts that go down, in which that by the end of each trio of acts, you encounter one of the 4 ghosts. At first, you are given a bit of treatment from the likes of one of those ghosts. And he is riding a mechanical frog. The main trick there is you gotta jump and slam down on its tongue as soon as he springs out towards you, effectively damaging the frog, and after enough hits, the frog is destroyed. The first golden fruit is passed down to you, and all you gotta do now is face up against the other 3 ghosts. From then on out, we are transported into different biomes. I mean, we basically go from the plains, to the woods, to the snow, to the water, to the volcano. And let me tell you, that's definitely quite a lot to work with. But you know what though? With all the different levels and all the different animals that we encounter, including rams, but I tell you, they do the similar sort of thing in which that Pac-Man does. A charge which allows him to effectively speed up, sort of like how Sonic the Hedgehog does. And remember, when discussing Pac-Man World, his charge movement, in which that he gains speed, is very much like the charge up that goes with Sonic the Hedgehog, in which you hold down a button and let it go, and then he flies incredibly fast. The fact that Pac-Man does the same thing almost gives me a wondering of how in the world are these two connected so well? 2 franchises that are somehow linked together through not only one means, but possibly by most other means. I mean, we're talking about Pac-Man and Sonic. They both can charge up and effectively run very fast. They both have a mortal enemy out there, although Pac-Man doesn't seem to have a total full-on enemy here. And to be fair, Sonic the Hedgehog, even though that we know Eggman is his mortal enemy, there's been many others he's faced over the years. Knuckles, Shadow, Silver. I mean, it's a pretty big list out there of other foes he's had to face over the years. And on top of all that, you have different Japanese companies. Bandai Namco and Sega. And we know that Namco has been popular for Pac-Man over the years, although others have gotten a hold of him just as well. Bandai Namco has mostly had the firm ownership of the character because, after all, it's technically a bit of a merger between the two. While Sega, of course, still remains Sonic the Hedgehog's top dog in the faces of ownership and copyrights. So I feel like that's enough connecting on that part here. Anyways, though, with many levels that you can go through, collecting the pellets and eventually the power pellets, which allow for the ghosts and other enemies to turn blue, and effectively allowing for you to gain bonus points. Much like the original arcade game did, all the way back in 1980. So you definitely get a lot of their share of appreciation, mostly based on references to what the original was like. And the fact that they turned all of this into 3D and elaborated it to make a full story and a full game worth out of it is pretty superb. I will say that the first game has had a lot of highs and lows on what it does, and effectively still somehow being better than what even the remake could offer here. But to tell you the truth, Pac-Man World 2 has been the one that I played the most, and I've had the most fond memories of over the years. Believe it or not though, there's been some speculation and talk going on about Pac-Man World 2 Repack. As if Pac-Man Repack needed to have the sequels attached to it. I mean, for real, we got Pac-Man World Repack, and some people are more disappointed in it than hateful or spiteful of it. But to have the remakes of the sequels, I can't be sure if that's going to fare well with everybody. But, you know, we can't exactly say too much about it without first knowing what to expect. So anyways, I don't really have much more to say about this game here. We're just going around different biomes, exploring the snowy caps, the water, the volcano, the forest, etc. Fighting the 4 main ghosts that we recognize from the original Pac-Man, and then going up against King Spooky, allowing him to be resealed under that tree in the middle of Pac Village. And not town, as I've said before. You don't want to confuse the terms. So, with Pac-Man World 2, compared to the first game, I find this one to be a lot better. It got a lot more challenge put into it, a lot more variety in terms of the stages as well as enemies. Like I said, the manual that I've gotten with the game has a lot of information worth talking about. I mean, they could talk about the spiders, how they can give nightmares for weeks, or basically the firemen, in which that they are able to burn Pac-Man if he gets too close. Or we could even talk about the rams, how they effectively use Pac-Man's charge movement to ram against him. So, I feel like the less said the better, just play the game, is probably an effective strategy here. So that way, if you still happen to have a copy of the game, certainly give it a try, especially if it's been a long time, because revisitation is a good way to regain lost memories. But anyways though, not much more for me to say. So my scoring of Pac-Man World 2 will be at an incredible 8.9 out of 10.1. A bit higher than what the first, and certainly higher than Pac-Man World Repack had gotten. If we're ever going to have a Pac-Man World 2 repack, let's at least hope they're going to do it right, compared to what they did with the original repack. But for tomorrow, I'll be talking about Pac-Man World 3. And I'll probably have as much to say, if not more so, than what Pac-Man World 2 has had for me to talk about. So if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Other than that, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side.